Ethan Walker, a man around 35 years old with a weary face but determined eyes, sat on a wooden bench near the elementary school. He was waiting for his young daughter, Sarah, to finish school. The chill of the late afternoon didn't bother him. The only thing weighing on his mind was the future. 2 years ago, Ethan had been a creative advertising professional with a thriving career. But the economic crisis had taken away his job, his home, and his confidence. Now, Ethan survived day by day on free meals and the kindness of the community. Yet, he never let his daughter see the despair he carried in his heart. Sarah, only 8 years old, was the single ray of light in his life. Each smile from her gave him the strength to keep fighting. The school bell rang, pulling Ethan out of his thoughts. "Dad?" Sarah's cheerful voice called as she ran toward him, holding a sheet of paper covered with scribbles. "Look, I got an A today." Ethan smiled, bending down to look at her drawing. "Wow, that's amazing, sweetheart. You make me so proud." He patted her head, trying to hide the worries that lingered in his mind. The two of them walked through narrow streets, heading toward a familiar place. Carter's Restaurant. Once a popular spot in the neighborhood, it was now a rundown eatery that served free meals to those in need. James Carter, the restaurant's owner, was a middle-aged man with a big heart, but he was also struggling to keep the restaurant from closing. When Ethan stepped inside, James was standing behind the counter, wiping bowls. "Ethan, Sarah, come on in. I just finished making today's soup. Grab a bowl and sit down." Ethan smiled gratefully, but his eyes were drawn to a large sign hanging outside the door. "Restaurant for sale, urgent clearance." His heart sank. This place wasn't just where he and Sarah got their meals, it was also a symbol of hope in their challenging lives. "James, are you really planning to sell the restaurant?" Ethan asked, his voice heavy with concern. James sighed, looking around the empty space. "I have no other choice. No customers, mounting debts. I've done everything I could." Ethan stayed silent for a moment, then his eyes lit up. "James, give me 1 week. I have a plan. If it doesn't work, you can sell it. But for now, let me try." Ethan woke up early in the morning, sitting outside the makeshift tent where he and Sarah lived. The sun was just beginning to rise, but in Ethan's mind, a plan was already taking shape. Today was the first day he would truly take action to save James's restaurant, the place that had helped him and his daughter during their toughest times. Ethan walked into the restaurant carrying a notebook and a pen and began speaking with James. "We need to make this place stand out, James. This restaurant has to become an exciting destination that people simply can't ignore." James listened in silence, but his eyes were filled with doubt. "That sounds nice, Ethan, but how can we do that? I don't have any money to make big changes." Ethan smiled. "We don't need money, just a bit of creativity." He pulled out a piece of paper and sketched an idea, a signboard for the entrance that read, "Come and try a surprise today. Heartfelt dishes are waiting for you." James looked at the simple design Ethan had drawn. "Just a sign? You think that'll work?" Ethan nodded. "Curiosity is human nature. If we make them curious, they'll come. Trust me." The two quickly got to work creating the sign. James, who had skilled hands, joined Ethan in painting and assembling it. They spent the entire day ensuring the sign was visible from afar. Every detail, from the colors to the font, was designed to catch the eye. But the first day didn't go as hoped. Only a few people passed by, glancing at the sign, but none stepped inside. James felt discouraged. He looked at Ethan and sighed. "I don't think this plan is going to work. Nobody cares about an old, rundown restaurant like this." Ethan remained calm. "James, this is just the first day. We need to be patient. It only takes one person to step inside for something magical to begin." The next morning, Ethan returned to the restaurant with another idea. "We need to add a little interaction, something that makes customers feel like they're part of this place." He suggested that James prepare a special dish for the day and ask a simple question. "Can you guess what this dish is? If you guess correctly, you'll get a free dessert." James chuckled. "You're full of creative ideas, Ethan. All right, I'll give it a shot." He set to work on a creamy mushroom soup, adding a special touch of seasoning known only to him. Throughout the day, Ethan stood outside the restaurant, inviting people to take part in the little challenge. A few people came in, curious about the game. They ordered the dish, tasted it, and eagerly made their guesses. Even though none of them guessed correctly, they left feeling happy and satisfied. That evening, James looked at Ethan and smiled for the first time in weeks. "You've reminded me why I opened this restaurant in the first place. It wasn't just to cook, it was to bring joy to people." That day, Sarah decided to join her father's plan. She suggested distributing flyers around the neighborhood. Ethan designed a simple yet eye-catching flyer with the words, "Carter's, where food tells a story. Come and discover the surprise." Sarah ran through the streets, her bright smile lighting up as she handed out flyers to passersby. Every time she approached someone, she didn't forget to add, "Mr. James is the best chef. You should try his soup." The results were surprising. That evening, the restaurant welcomed 5 new groups of customers. A small family came in to enjoy the food, took a picture of the mushroom soup, and posted it on social media with a glowing review. A small but warm place. Give it a try. You won't be disappointed. Standing behind the kitchen counter, James watched Sarah happily running around, and his heart was filled with emotion. "Ethan, she really is a little angel. I don't know what to say." Ethan smiled. "Sarah is my greatest inspiration. Everything I do for her." Ethan realized that the restaurant's interior needed a makeover as well. He decided to refresh the place using what they already had. Father and daughter got to work, cleaning and scrubbing every corner. Sarah helped rearrange the tables and chairs, while Ethan painted a large mural on the wall. The mural depicted a serene wheat field with a small house and a vast, clear blue sky. When it was finished, Sarah stood back to admire her father's work, her eyes lighting up. "Dad, the restaurant looks completely different. It's so beautiful." James walked in after finishing his kitchen duties and froze in awe. "Ethan, you really have a talent. Thank you. I never thought my restaurant could look like this." Following the initial success of the creative ideas, Ethan felt he needed to do more to connect the community with Carter's restaurant. He came up with the idea of hosting a Share the Joy Day. Every customer who visited the restaurant wouldn't just enjoy their meals, but also have the opportunity to share their own stories. Ethan decided to put up a large board outside the restaurant that read, "Share your story, get a free dessert." This plan not only helped build a connection between the customers and the restaurant, but also created a sense of belonging, making people feel like they were part of something special. Ethan and Sarah arrived at the restaurant early to help James prepare. Sarah, always full of energy, was given the task of decorating the seating area with small paper lanterns she had made the day before. Ethan and James worked on a special menu featuring comforting family-style dishes like slow-cooked chicken soup and baked apple pie. "Dad, I think people will really love this idea. I enjoy listening to fun stories," Sarah said as she carefully placed the lanterns around the tables. "I hope so too, sweetheart," Ethan replied with a smile, his heart full of hope. As soon as the restaurant opened, the first guests arrived. An elderly man with silver hair sat in a corner and slowly began sharing a story from his youth, about the time he and his late wife traveled across the country in a small camper van. Everyone in the restaurant listened intently, and by the end of the story, the man's eyes welled up with tears, but he smiled as he recalled those beautiful memories. "Thank you, sir. Your story truly moved me," another guest said. "My wife and I have always dreamed of a trip like that." The old man chuckled softly. "Do it while you still can, my friend. Don't wait." James, standing behind the kitchen counter, watched the scene unfold, and his heart felt warm. "Ethan, I never thought my restaurant could become a place where people connect like this." Ethan nodded. "That's the power of community, James. We're not just selling food, we're building something bigger." As the day was drawing to a close, a group of young customers came in. They saw the board and started sharing a funny story about the time they went camping and had their food stolen by a bear. The entire restaurant erupted in laughter. Sarah, standing nearby, couldn't help but chime in. "That bear must love good food as much as everyone here." Laughter rippled through the restaurant, and the atmosphere became livelier than ever. One of the group members said, "We're definitely telling our friends about this place. Thanks for such a wonderful evening." When the restaurant finally closed, James, Ethan, and Sarah sat down together. James looked at the day's revenue board and smiled with satisfaction. "Today was the best day we've had so far, Ethan. Your ideas are truly magical." Ethan, though exhausted, had a bright sparkle in his eyes. "This is just the beginning, James. We're not just saving a restaurant. We're building a real community. That means more than money." Sarah hugged her father tightly and whispered, "I'm so proud of you, Dad." James stood up and patted Ethan on the shoulder. "I am too. Thank you, Ethan. This restaurant wouldn't be here today without you." Ethan came up with another special idea, hosting a music night at the restaurant. He called an old friend who played the guitar and invited him to perform for free. Together, they set up a small corner in the restaurant as a stage. Outside, Ethan placed a new sign. "This Saturday, music night at Carter's. Great food, great music, all waiting for you." That evening, the restaurant was packed with customers. Warm music filled the air, creating a cozy ambiance. Sarah also took part, telling a few funny stories that had everyone laughing. James, watching the lively crowd, couldn't hold back his tears. "I never dared to dream of this. Ethan, you've truly saved this place." As they worked together, Ethan and James developed a deep bond. One day, James sat down beside Ethan and said, "You haven't just saved my restaurant, you've given me hope. Thank you." Ethan smiled. "You helped me when I needed it most. This is my way of giving back." 2 months later, Carter's restaurant wasn't just revived, it had become a beloved landmark in the neighborhood. Ethan and James were now official partners. Ethan had not only found a new job, but also a new family. Sarah gained a loving grandfather figure in James. One evening, James called Ethan and Sarah to the back of the restaurant. "Ethan, I want you to become a co-owner. This restaurant belongs to us now." Ethan watched his daughter happily running around and felt his heart lighten. "Thank you, James. I don't need anything more than my daughter's happiness." Their story was not just about reviving a restaurant, but also a testament to the power of kindness and perseverance. In life, sometimes all it takes is a little faith to turn dreams into reality. If you loved this story, don't forget to subscribe to Life Stories 365 for more inspiring tales. Share this story to spread the message. Together, we can overcome anything.